Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and this video is brought to you by the online BBallBreakdown membership. Click the first link in the description below to learn more and join.
Good.
The Warriors ended the Rockets' season last night in 6 games, surprising many since they were on the road and without their best player. But in an epic clash of styles, Golden State proved they were the tougher team, overcoming the hostile crowd, the even more hostile refs, and the individual brilliance of James Harden. But this isn't just about one closeout game in one series. It's about how the Rockets put together their teams and their philosophy of attack on the hardwood. It's time to take a serious look at whether it's the best way to do things, or if, once and for all, team basketball based on trust, energy, and most importantly, chemistry is the way to go. In the first half of Game 6, it was clear the Rockets were going to key their defense on the only two real shooters on the floor, Klay and Curry. It seemed to work on Curry, who did not score a single point in the first half, and on some of these shots it was embarrassing, as he was clearly off his game. But Klay Thompson kept them afloat with 21 crucial points, and Chris Paul giving him 5 feet of space lets Klay think about it before knocking it down. While the Rockets want to switch the pick and roll, Capella is 2 steps late getting into proper initial position, and that's literally all the time and room Klay needs to stick it in his eye. It was strange to see the Rockets rotate off of Klay when he's clearly the only guy that can score in this particular lineup. And again, Chris Paul stunts at him instead of completely picking him up, and it leads to a wide open 8-footer. Meanwhile, it was James Harden running the show for the Rockets and creating openings that ultimately lead to him finding space for his patented step-back three-point shot on the left wing. With Klay Thompson guarding him more than usual without KD in the lineup, he reaches in, backs up a bit too much, and Harden rises up over the contest for another 3. But he was extremely inefficient in the first half, as Andre Iguodala could harass him and get help from Looney on this floater. And Klay was excellent in steering him into the help, where they got 2 huge rotations and blocks from Jordan Bell, unexpected but welcomed with open arms by Golden State. Having finally gotten on the scoreboard with 10 points in the third quarter, no one in the building would have expected another 23 points in the fourth. And it started when Chris Paul gets faked by the slightest of hesitations and allows Curry right into the middle of the lane for a soft floater that rolls around and through. The Rockets had 3 shots at it during this trip down the floor, and they resorted to yet another Harden ISO with everybody watching. And check the contortion by Iguodala to closely contest this 3, but avoid any contact to force the miss. The referees missed a number of calls that seemed to have favored the Rockets, so I guess the basketball gods decided to even it up by allowing Draymond to not only slap Capella on the wrist so hard you could actually hear it,
Speed inside, Capella,
but then to somehow have the ref give the ball to the Warriors. The Rockets doubled Curry out of the pick and roll a lot, and this harkened back to the pre-KD days where Draymond would get short rolls and make great decisions. Capella must rotate over to stop the ball, and Harden must rotate down. He's way late, flies by, and Looney continues his strong play. Up by 2, the Warriors try to lure the double team again, but Tucker recovers, so it turns into a handoff back to Curry, who just launches this from 30 feet and buries it. And suddenly the Warriors have control. Curry hits his already injured left hand on this possession, and the TV coverage didn't let us see how Curry ended up on an island against Harden, who hits the brakes and drops the tray. On another short roll by Draymond, he makes a mistake to hurdle himself into Capella, hoping the refs would bail him out. The Rockets have a chance, but Draymond runs by Harden on the other end and gets shoved pretty hard out of the way. It doesn't justify the green head snap, but there's no other way to look at this play. Harden's chicken wing gets too far out there, and the refs have to call it. Up by only 2, the Rockets again switch this pick and roll, and Curry again goes to work on Tucker. The defense is very solid, and the challenge is right there, but Curry hits him with a few dribble combos and ironically does the Harden step back, and this one was just stunning. In fact, it was so stunning that James Harden decides to throw a bounce pass to Chris Paul, who doesn't come back for the ball, and Klay Thompson shocks the arena by stepping in and stealing it. This isn't quite like Havlicek stole the ball or anything, but because they're not in the bonus, they need to take the foul and stop the clock. Still down 5, Harden gets the half-court ball screen. Iguodala wasn't prepared. Draymond doesn't want to foul, so keeps backing up and lets Harden lay it in. And this was the do-or-die moment. The Rockets changed their defense on Curry and trap him out of the pick and roll again. This time, Harden is in the right spot to take away the pass to Looney. Green fires the ball to Iguodala, and here's the mistake Chris Paul makes. He takes 2 steps towards the corner. Even though Iguodala had been hot all game, you take your chances with him shooting it. Since the alternative is what happened. Klay gets the ball on the left wing, neither Tucker or Paul can get there in time, and Klay sticks the dagger in and twists the knife. The game ends with Curry making his free throws. He hasn't missed one in the fourth overtime of a playoff game since 2015, and the Warriors move on to the conference finals. The real question from this series is whether the Rockets made the right decision to get Chris Paul in the first place. Let's go back and examine the trade they made with the Clippers in 2017. The Rockets were forced to give up 7 players and a first-round pick. The players the Clippers ultimately got upon the back of that trade was Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverley, and Danilo Gallinari. This is the backbone of a surprising Clippers team that pushed the Warriors to the same number of games as the Rockets did. And it's worth questioning whether the Rockets could have used those 3 players in their series versus the Warriors instead of Chris Paul. Williams averaged 21.7 points per game and caused severe problems for the Warriors defense all series long. Patrick Beverley was such a driving force for them defensively, he got into the mind of Kevin Durant and guarded practically everyone on the floor, bringing a defensive ferocity that Houston simply lacks. Montrezl Harrell was someone the Warriors simply did not want to see on the court, and his scoring was extraordinary despite only averaging 26 minutes a game, as he scored on a ridiculous 73% of his shots. The Warriors had no answer. While Chris Paul's overall numbers in the series were somewhat in line with his regular season production, for far too many minutes throughout, he'd disappear and not have much of an impact on the game, as Harden went into full-on isolation mode over and over again. And defensively, he's simply not the same dominant player he once was, and it's unfair to expect him to be since he's 33 and playing in his 14th season. The Warriors were able to pick on him down low when they'd catch him with a mismatch due to all the switching the Rockets defense does. And I know in the past, he'd have been more effective in these situations than he is now. Compare that to Patrick Beverley, and you'll see a more dynamic, athletic, and effective defender all the way around. He simply would not let his size be an issue against the Warriors, and his tenacity on the ball was unparalleled by anyone else in the playoffs this year. On top of that, Beverley lit up the nets from behind the arc, nailing 43% of his 5 attempts per game. Compare that to CP3's meager 31.4% from 3, and I might even argue they'd have been better off with just Beverley instead of Paul. We've seen the Rockets time and again be willing to treat their players like pawns on a chessboard, assets without a sense of chemistry. And while it puts them in position to win on paper, it seems as if there's a glass ceiling for them. I'm not willing to say it's an offensive style issue completely. Scoring the basketball isn't really the problem, but as Steve Kerr told me in the past, there's a reason the Warriors don't run a lot of pick and rolls, and the same could apply to all the Rockets' isolations.
If you run pick and roll over and over again, the other 3 guys who are just standing there, they kind of lose some juice.
It's unclear what the Rockets intend to do this offseason, but no doubt they'll be very active in the market to move more of those pieces around. The problem is they're committed to their big 3 for 3 more years and almost no cap space to play with. Chris Paul's contract and age make him untradeable, and moving Capella doesn't open up that much space anyway. The Warriors learned a little bit about themselves too. They went from averaging 298.9 passes per game in the playoffs to making 325 last night, and it led to their highest field goal percentage of the series. I'd like to think it's clear what wins in the NBA, and it should be a template for all levels below. And when you lock yourself into a stats-driven style without enough attention to nurturing the team at all levels, you get the Rockets, a great team, one that can threaten the defending champs severely, but who ultimately fall short.